Today we are on site at the Fresh Take on French property, but we're actually standing in front of the guest house, which we call our speakeasy. It has an influence taken from the Prohibition speakeasy vibes, and I can't wait to show it to you. So let's go on in. So when we started working on this project, we wanted there to be an immediate transportation into a different world as soon as you entered the space. So you enter at the garage level, and then we have this big staircase that's going to wind us up. We wanted to set that tone immediately. We have this whole stairway covered in used tumbled brick. We have some reclaimed barnwood. We kind of did this cool two-tone stairway, which I think is really unique and adds like interest to a space that could be typically really boring. Okay, one of the first things about this space that's so cool is that we have this vaulted pitched roof with an amazing slider doors that we put in. We punched some skylights in the ceiling just to give us even more natural light because we didn't want it to get too dark because we knew we were going to do a little bit more of a moody feeling in here. This countertop, honestly, was one of our main inspirations for this kitchen. It's called Capolavoro and it's leathered. It kind of pulls like this really vintage, almost wood-like feel throughout. And the leathered texture gives it a little bit more rusticness, which I think works awesome with the reclaimed barnwood that we have on all the cabinetry. We also add a lot of texture with these hammered metal pendants. We have to talk about these because all the plumbing in here is so cool. These just are this cool copper. They look like pipes. It just adds to that feeling. Another aspect of this kitchen that I really love is this custom hood that we did over the range. We wanted it again to feel a little bit industrial, kind of steampunk slightly. They almost look like they're from a ship. And then we did this beautiful range from Blue Star where we could add that copper detail that kind of ties back into our plumbing. And then we still have our brick throughout. Another thing I want to point out is this metal clad cabinetry, which we incorporated here. We also added a antiqued glass, so it kind of gives it that vintage feel, and this ties over to our custom hood. This space is primarily going to be used for housing guests, events, parties, or dinners, and so we wanted a different type of use of the space with the furniture. You can see we have this big kitchen, but we also wanted to orient all of this into just conversational areas. So because we had such a long, narrow space, we divided it into two seating areas. The cool thing is we have all these swivel chairs, so you can turn, you can look outside, you can talk to each other. It actually creates more of a sense of flexibility and intimacy. Because we still wanted to have that kind of vintage speakeasy vibe, we picked a lot of materials that spoke to that. The rug feels very vintage. I incorporated very purposefully some kind of Art Deco designed fabrics mixed with some vintage florals. It just kind of gives it that really unique combination that's interesting, but it has a nod to like past and history. I also just love the textures. Because we have so much texture in the space, we have the brick on the walls, we have the reclaimed on the ceiling, even our floor is like a really organic brushed oak. I wanted the fabrics and the leathers in here to be textured too. So we have really rich velvets in these jewel tones, and I love the texture of these little Chester-filled swivel chairs because it's kind of this cracked, worn, kind of a bomber jacket leather. Again, it kind of just ties into a historical, this is loved and worn and collected. One thing we did I think was really ingenious with the space is we added these sliders that open up all the way, and we added this big deck, which doubles your living space. So when you come out here, you have a whole nother seating area, you have a dining area. It's great for fall evenings with the fire pit, beautiful in the summer. And it actually was super helpful when we did the install because we had to bring things up onto the deck with like a crane and then in through these big sliders because the stairway leading up is kind of narrow. We're gonna walk down the hall to the guest quarters. We wanted this hallway to still feel like really like you're transported into another place in time. So we have some vintage posters that we framed, kind of that hunting lodge feel a little bit, also just kind of take you back in history. So we have some cool vintage posters with the art lights. Also, again, a little nod to kind of an Art Deco feel with these glass semi-flush mount fixtures, kind of adds to that ambiance. We have 2 guest rooms, one to the right and one to the left, and then we have a shared bathroom at the back of the hall. So we're gonna go take a look at one of the guest rooms here. We did one of the rooms a little bit more feminine. This is the more feminine version. We have this beautiful wallpaper, which I'm obsessed with. It's just very feminine, but it has kind of a vintage faded feel. It's soft, romantic. It gives a nice opposition to like the rest of the house, which feels quite masculine. So we wanted a place that felt a little softer. We have an old-fashioned iron bed. Again, just kind of a little bit on that whimsical, old-fashioned feel to it. The bedding was really fun. We did a very curated bedding package. Like we have a lot of different textures. We have these cute little florals, petite florals and stripes and tweeds and linens. We want it to feel collected, like maybe there was some heritage to it, like you're staying at your grandmother's house. We wanted something really fun like that. We have a faded vintage rug. We added, again, a little bit of fur, just playing off all the textures in the room. And then we built in this window seat, just because this is such a pretty, pretty space. We did it in a kind of a crushed velvet and added a lot of fun pillows and a pretty embroidered drapery. Just gives a nice little like reading nook, or if you had small children here, they probably could even sleep on this too. I want to show you a couple small details that maybe aren't noticeable when you're walking through, but they're noticeable when you really stay in place. Anytime we had like an air return or a heat register, we didn't want it to take you back out of the moment. So again, we did like an iron, so it keeps you in the feeling that we're creating. All of the door hardware keeps you in the moment. It stays in that time. This is a really neat cast bronze with a patina on it. Even our light switches. These are very modern and up to date, but the bronze feeling of it keeps you in the moment. We're gonna now walk into the other guest room. This room, I wanted it to be a little bit more masculine. It still does have like a feminine touch, but we brought in some plaids on the draperies. This is kind of a cool little bench that has like a leather and like kind of a canvas feel to it. The pinstripe. This kind of a paisley feels a little bit more masculine to me, but we still kept it feeling vintage. We added some really pretty sheets with kind of a crochet trim, linen here again, and we did kind of a more old-fashioned floral. Florals historically were used all the time for menswear, so it still fits. I love this bed. Again, it just kind of feels like maybe this is collected, that it's been passed down from generations. This is like a space that really has my heart. A few reasons. One of them might be because this hand-painted tile took 4 times for them to install to get this right. But it is so cool. We love how it turned out. I love the moodiness of it. And I especially love it when we've paired it with this reclaimed barnwood, which we also have on all of our cabinets. We have some really cool kind of cement sinks. I want to show you the plumbing. This plumbing really has a special place for me. It's just made to look like industrial piping, and you have to check out how cool it is in the shower because it's all exposed valving. And we did the whole thing, we just went for it. We went dark and moody with a black brick, and it just turned out so cool. Okay, some other details. The mirrors, they almost feel a little bit like they've come from a ship, which kind of nods into this. The lighting feels moody. And we didn't want you to feel departed from this vibe. We left all of the towels, the hand towels, the bath towels, feel like really kind of earthy and old-fashioned. And we did all that just to keep everybody in the moment. My favorite space in the whole project of the Speakeasy is this game room and bar. You walk in and you immediately feel like you have been just transported. It's almost kind of like an old-time saloon feel. Again, we've wrapped the whole room. Ceilings, beams, walls, everything in real reclaimed barnwood. We did a lot of just like different little areas that you can gather. So we have some bar top tables, and then we have some lower cocktail tables. You could do poker games, drinks, entertain, have dinners in here, just really fun. This bar is so cool in my opinion. This is one of the most unique slabs. It's actually granite, which normally we kind of shy away from granite. It's not as in right now, but it's so beautiful. It almost kind of looks like a mountain scene. And we love that because we are up here in the mountains, so it kind of nods to that. We did a lot of antique shopping for this space. We have some like vintage guns, which I think are from the Revolutionary War. We have this cash register that we picked up at an antique store. We have this little radio that we picked up at an antique store. And just all these little elements to make it feel authentic. We have some hidden appliances in this bar. You wouldn't even be able to tell from looking at it, but we have like fridge drawers. We have just a cool little bar faucet again with our favorite watermark, Brooklyn. And then we actually have a kegerator. We also added a built-in window seat again, like we did in the bedroom, this in a leather, just because we want to capitalize on all the space and seating we can get. We brought in some of these fun patterns from the great room just to tie it all in together. And then we have this hidden little powder bathroom right here with a really fun mosaic. Wrapped the whole thing in barnwood, some cool plumbing, a really neat vessel sink, and some fun lighting that feels a little bit industrial again, just to keep you in that moment. So there you have it for our speakeasy project. It's one of my all-time favorites. You're gonna wanna check out our other video of the main house, which we call Fresh Take on French. We did a super duper rehaul on that, took it down to the studs, took the roof off. You're gonna wanna check that one out too. A place that people know they can come and they can just party till the cows come home. So stupid.